Welcome, everybody, to Wednesday's edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, alongside Mike Gallagher. And as we do each and every Monday through Friday of the week, we are here to break down the injury report, get you prepared for tonight's 9-game slate. And with me, Mike Gallagher, where are we going to start? Are we going to start Lakers again? Lakers were the big injury news last night. We don't have a Lakers injury report now. So what are we thinking for Lakers versus OKC?
Yeah, so yesterday was knee-mageddon, right? A lot of bang knees, Jokic. There's been a lot of Geddons lately. Snowmageddon. There's the movie Armageddon from Silicon Valley, if anybody gets that quote. But so let's start with AD just to break it down. So he got sideswiped knee to knee, which is worse. Like you'd rather be head on because it's usually bone bruise. You're not worried about your ligaments as much. So he could be dealing with something. He was really laboring. He had an alley-oop, after he kind of got loosened up, he was okay. But he's probably feeling it. So I think there's a pretty good chance he sits today. Really good chance. LeBron missed the game. They're playing OKC, coming off a win that they needed. They may not need LeBron. They may just shut everybody down and play, whoever they got left. They got Wayne Ellington probably coming back. He was available last night. So there's that thrown in the mix. You saw Malik Monk play a bunch of playing time. But, yeah, if AD's out, they're going to have to go really big. They're going to have to really throw a bunch of small dudes out there on the perimeter, play. Yeah, it could be really ugly. But I think LeBron probably has to go if AD doesn't. So it's a whole bunch of there's 30 if thens if there's
it's tough to dial out all the different scenarios, but basically kind of know this, that if it's a scenario where AD or LeBron sits pretty much any night, if AD or LeBron sit, Russ and whoever else is left are probably going to be really strong plays. You throw in on top of that going up against Oklahoma City, and you recognize that it's an amplifier. Oklahoma City is just a really bad team. They're really bad defensively. They turn the ball over a lot. So you get an amplifier effect as well. And then you get all these value plays potentially getting into the mix as well, where you could see situations where if AD didn't play, they don't have a small ball 5 anymore. They would just have a normal 5 unless they wanted to play LeBron as a small ball 5. So you get Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan who are going to have to play in those scenarios. I think Dwight's a more productive, permanent player than DeAndre. And similarly, you would have a lot of opened up playing time at the 4 position as well that LeBron would fill most of, but they're not super deep on the wings. So you would see value potentially from Carmelo, potentially from Kent Bazemore. And then if they rested both LeBron and AD, something like that, then you get Lakers bonanza. I mean, you're playing 4 Lakers in a lot of lineups type things. So this is the biggest injury news to monitor on the slate. It's a game that's at 8 o'clock Eastern. Now, I will say this, one thing that there's been a lot of criticism of the NBA over the last few years about injury reporting. And I do think this year, going to the every hour injury report update so far, things have been better. I know I was trying to get out a little bit before lock because I had a social commitment last night, and then LeBron news popped up, and I was like, oh, crap. Texted the person I was going to see, hey, I'm going to be late. I got to handle this. And so I think there's more injury reporting possibility of things coming in earlier. So I'm actually I won't say optimistic, but I think there's a chance we get the information.
Whoop. I was almost
trying not to sneeze.
Yeah, I did the same thing just now. The Clippers play tonight, so you're about to just have all your stuff you said undone. But it's gonna be real rough. We don't know what's up. They did rule LeBron out before warmups, which is usually a sign he'll probably be game time tonight. So we may not get that news as of, especially if AD is out. But yeah, we'll be updating that. Shout out to the Underdog guys for promptly at 30 minutes after the hour. They are on it. Saves me some work for sure. Melo, if without both, it will be Melo would have to start, right?
I would think so. I think you just have a value bonanza in that spot. So
Hillbilly Kobe
essentially, if you're playing this slate from a DFS perspective, we'll talk about more of these iterations on the live show tonight at 5 o'clock with myself and Gary tonight, I believe, on the live show. But you want to leave room to be able to maneuver to this news because this news changes the slate so dramatically. that if you had locked in a bunch of guys before this news came out, and LeBron and AD, or just AD sits, or just LeBron sits, it changes the nature of the slate dramatically. So we have both projected in right now. We don't know. We'll see where things go, and as news updates during the day. What are some of the other? I don't think there's anything as big as LeBron tonight, but what else do we got on the injury docket that you're on?
Karis LeVert's the other big one. He is questionable. He said he's good to go. He went through at least 3-on-3 practice. I don't know anything else. Like, there's sometimes we just don't know, right? Like, behind closed doors, teams aren't going to share this. So usually 3-on-3 isn't the final step. You want to get more 5-on-5. In LeVert's case, multiple 5-on-5. So I wouldn't be surprised, because it's not a soft tissue injury like a hamstring or a calf. So the ramp up period isn't quite as smooth. So he may be good to go, but just generally 3-on-3 isn't the last step for a guy who's missed a month with this back chip. So obviously the big news would be Chris Duarte, who has been basically starting for him and running away with the playing time, would be impacted. We know Rick Carlisle is okay going small. We saw him go big with Goga Batadze after Miles Turner got booted, which is a whole other thing. But Duarte would be affected. Malcolm Brogdon has been insane. He's, I think, first in drives, third in potential assists. All his role numbers are like insane. So that will be coming down. Maybe Domantas Sabonis, who's first in front court touches, would be coming down a little bit. And Justin Holiday maybe play some forward, would cut down Torrey Craig. A lot of trickle downs from LeVert possibly coming back. But again, I think he doesn't play, but definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah. So as we're recording here, we get the Lakers news, which is surprising.
There we go.
Given it's not on the 30, but LeBron's not going to play tonight. Anthony Davis is questionable. Westbrook's going to be an incredible play, and you've got other outs
back to OKC too, man, for that narrative. So my God,
yeah, you've got a lot of other opportunities for Lakers value to emerge quite a bit if Anthony Davis is unable to go too. So that getting at least one bit of that information clears things up quite a bit.
I think AD's sitting. I honestly think I thought AD was more likely to sit. So.
Yeah,
I think so. It sounds like they were probably not planning LeBron to play at all, honestly, with the way that the timeline worked out. But I'm not concerned about LeBron long term.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's so thin. So like their front court guys would definitely be in play, because if AD doesn't play, they got to play, right? So
yeah, I mean, you take out AD, you take out LeBron, that's taking out 70 plus projected minutes from the team, and they don't have a lot of bodies to fill those. So you're looking at you're just going to look at a ton of Lakers value tonight. If AD plays, it will be that very challenging situation to deal with AD, where he's a little bit banged up. They're playing an opponent that they don't necessarily need him, but he's going to project like an absolute monster. So we'll talk about more of this stuff on the DFS show specifically. But I think in general tonight, you have the information now that LeBron is out, and you can prepare as if there's a chance that AD is out, and opens things up even further for the Lakers. Getting back to LeVert, you mentioned at when the news broke there that Brogdon has been incredible. His rates dropped off considerably last year when sharing the floor with LeVert. It's one of these things with LeVert where I think if he plays, he's probably limited on the minute side, and I don't know how much they overlap those minutes when they're already limited. So Brogdon could hold on to a little bit of the role, but it would be difficult to project. Similarly, last year, Sabonis had pretty wide splits in those games without LeVert. It hasn't been as dramatic this year. Different coaching staff, different kind of offense that they're running a little bit. So we're not getting as many of those Sabonis dribble handoffs into pick and rolls that were so effective for him last year. But I think both of those guys, if LeVert comes back into play, you just have to be, careful that those guys are priced as if LeVert hasn't been playing. And so you just need to be thoughtful in terms of like how much upside they can retain. Also, not a great matchup tonight against Toronto. Just Toronto's been playing super slow, not one of the best environments on the slate.
Yep. LeVert, he had that really weird, thing that he got caught when he got traded. That was awesome to see. That caught that. He was ramped up a little bit. It took him 2 games to get up to speed. Different coaching staff, but medical staff should have similar thinking. So, yeah. What did we put in? I think I said 27.
27 was around the range.
Yeah.
I would guess.
So I think that makes sense.
I would guess 25 to 27 is where we'd land, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Also depends on, if he wasn't starting, you'd probably lower it to like 22 to 24. hopefully we'll get more information and clarity. LeVert says he's ready to go. There's a quote that said he's ready to go, but the team said it's it's up to the training staff and the medical staff, and the players are almost always more optimistic on their own health than the medical staff is. So I would not be surprised to see another night without LeVert, which is how we currently have it projected right now. Another couple of questionables that I think moved the slate a little bit. One in Portland with Norm Powell, who missed last game, and we saw. I mean, Portland was awful last game against the Clippers. They ended up losing that game by 30 plus, but we saw Nasir Little play a ton in the first half, and then the game got out of hand and just didn't kind of come back in. He's still pretty affordable around the industry. We're projecting right now Norm Powell not to play tonight, but he is listed as questionable. What's your lean on the Powell situation, and what are you thinking in terms of how that impacts Portland? Do you think it will be the same type of rotation we saw last game?
Yeah, so he got an MRI. That's usually an indication that there's something wrong with him, but it looks like he's clear. He's obviously kind of structurally sound, but when you have a knee injury that bad and they have to take precautions to get you tested, usually you're going to miss a good week or so. So don't know, but I would lean out given the information, circumstantial evidence that we have on him. So yeah, like you said, Nazir picked up all the playing time. DSJ kind of slid in as Simons played more of a wing rather than a straight backup to Dame, with a little bit of overlap there too, so that would affect him there as well. But yeah, I mean, this game environment, which you guys will talk about later, is stupid, man. Like these two teams are flying. The Blazers are first in pace. Their defense is bad. The Memphis offense has been ridiculous. Jaws on another level. Like, my God, if Norm doesn't play, like just because that game environment's so good, I think Nazir would be definitely in play.
Yeah, I had some optimism that some of the moves that Portland made in the offseason, bringing in Larry Nance Jr., would allow their defense to take a little bit of a step forward. It has not happened at all. I mean, they were one of the worst defenses in the league last year. It's been the same so far this year. I really think if they're going to kind of unlock their best types of defensive lineups, it's going to be more of Nance as kind of a backup center, less Cody Zeller, more Robert Covington. Just generally right now they're playing Nance at the 4, and that's limiting Covington's upside on minutes. And then also more Nasir Little and Norm Powell. I think the length there on the wings is going to be important, but they're always going to struggle defensively because Dame and CJ just have a hard time staying in front of guys. And Nurk's a very good rim protector and he's a very good defender, but he fouls a ton. So he ends up getting you in the bonus. He ends up getting himself out of the game. I mean, those are the issues with him. So there will be a little bit of value there, but I think just generally, like, it's a late game and it's questionable. So if you are playing like Nasir Little or you're trying to pick at some of that value, just be careful. Make sure you have some swaps ready and some different things going on. In terms of other injury situations to monitor tonight, is there anything else big on your radar that you think moves the needle from a DFS perspective for guys that are questionable?
Yeah, I mean, Gallo's questionable. Only did 1-on-1 over the weekend, so he's probably close. I think we still have him out. I don't think he's ready yet. I don't think they need him to play. Like, I think he's just getting that questionable tag, like in case something happens with Hunter or something again. Lou Will, ankle soreness, questionable. McMillan said that he was going to play him regardless of Hunter in the last game, which would have cut down DeLon Wright, which, I mean, who cares? It doesn't really matter. And then Raul Neto's interesting because he has a shoulder injury. Spencer Dinwiddie's been really busy, second in the NBA on shots per game off drives. Rolls pretty good. Switch happy Boston defense will be interesting to see how he attacks that. They also don't have Cassius Winston, so Aaron Holiday would get all the backup minutes behind Dinwiddie. And then also Josh Hart said that he needs kind of a full experience in practice before he plays. So questionable tag, assuming he's out, which we kind of thought the whole time.
Yeah, and without Josh Hart, we've seen the Pelicans players play really heavy minutes, and also we've seen a lot of their rebound rates increase considerably. Remember, Josh Hart, one of the best rebounders from the wing position in the league, and so you've seen Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas rebound numbers skyrocket, as well as like Najee Marshall, some of these secondary wing players, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So his absence is like, it's one of these ones that you might think is kind of small because he's not a high usage guy, but he's such a high rebound guy. It's actually funneling over to some of these him and Zion. The absence of those two guys is funneling over to a lot of leftover rebounds for the other Pelicans wings.
Yep.
In terms of Neto, I just want to say, like, Dinwiddie has had a really big role in terms of opportunity and ball handling and different things like that. Some of it's inflated by playing a game without Beal, but most of it seems pretty real and consistent game over game. The thing that hasn't really been there as much consistently is the high-end minute ceiling, and that might be here now without Neto, because they're short ball handlers. They could ask Beal to run the offense and carry the offense as well. But just generally, like they start to get into more of the Kuzma at the 3, Avdija at the 3, which I think they'd feel more comfortable normally with those guys at the 4. And without Hachimura, they're kind of thin there. So you could see kind of heavy guard minutes for these guys tonight. I don't know if they'll be considered like primary targets on the slate because it's such a small injury situation. Washington's been kind of disappointing early on but the price tags are like pretty decent for Beal and Dinwiddie. So those guys might end up being interesting tournament plays.
Yeah, the Boston defense has been the switch happiest defense in the NBA. No data on that, just going off what I've seen. So yeah, it could be messy, and they just like, okay, our offense isn't click. Lean on those two guys exclusively. So yeah, I think it could be really good. Dinwiddie loves that 1-5 pick and roll stuff. They're going to try to keep Robert Williams back with the way they're running their coverages, much like we saw Ayton, and with defenses kind of staying behind while switches are going kind of up top. So that's pretty interesting too. And then also just quickly, Kyle Kuzma's been rebounding like a ridiculous madman. All of a sudden too. So definitely keep an eye on that as they need to work their offense out. They look terrible so far. Just quickly on return, if you got anything else.
No, I was going to funnel into returns. So go right with it.
Yeah. So Bobby Portis, we thought he was coming back the next last game, but more on-court work, probable this time after the questionable tag last time. So he should be back. Much needed depth against Cat. Cat, I wrote Cat up in the matchups as a blow-up spot, but getting him back would cut out our boy Shandu Mamokavishvili, also affecting Pat Connaughton because they've run that Connaughton with the other starters lineup in place of Doncic or whoever else. Has been crazy good, crazy fast, really good fantasy environment. That would cut him down a little bit. We still don't have Jrue Holiday as well, so George Hill, Grayson Allen's been really good. Those guys would benefit. Yeah,
and Semi Ojeleye back to another depth piece that they could have. I don't know that he's necessarily a core part of the rotation. I think that's a little bit more guesswork. On Portis, he's fairly cheap. But it really comes down to like we don't know what the role is going to be. So I think if he's in the starting lineup, you can get more optimistic about what the minutes range is on him. But if he's not in the starting lineup, it's probably because they have a minutes cap on him. And Minnesota is a team that you have to play big against, right? They play Cat as a primary center, and then they play Naz Reid as a backup center. They play big dudes. So I think it's a good spot for Portis if his conditioning is there, but that's a total unknown from our point of view.
It's important to know it's a hammy strain. So hammies and calves always have ramp up period. They're never going to be like, okay, you're back, go. So he'll have a cap. Whether it's going to be, I may have to look at how Milwaukee's handle hammies, but I mean, I don't think he's playing more than 24. I'd be pretty surprised if he's, upper 20s.
Yeah, so we have him at 25 right now. So
that should come down, I think.
I think if he's starting, I'd be comfortable kind of leaving it in that range. If he's not starting, I think I'd probably pull him down to like 20. Yeah. So he's projecting as being really chalky on DraftKings where he's 4,300. It's just a great price tag. So that's one to keep an eye on the news with the starting lineup and stuff. Even though we know he's probable to return, it's not enough to just know that he's probable to return. You want to see some indication of whether he's starting or not, because that will give you a hint into the role. Other guys that are back tonight, Al Horford returns after a game off. We've seen Horford have a really big impact on Robert Williams. The upside for Robert Williams has not appeared in the games Horford's played. It's super small sample stuff, but just from watching the games as well, it does seem like all the primary pick and roll stuff ends up being with Horford or post up stuff that gets like Williams kind of left in the dunker spot, which means he's basically just there to clean up on occasion and not a primary source of offense. So the usage has gone way down. The rebounding has also gone way down. I think that's less likely to hold. Horford's posting a rebound rate that's almost 2x what he's been the last 4 years. That seems unlikely and unsustainable. But he is back. So we've got a Boston team now at full strength. They've been games without Horford, games without Jaylen Brown. Now they have kind of everybody in their wheelhouse. And, another spot tonight.
Just to add really quick about Udoka dropped a hint, in my opinion. He's talked about Schroeder's fit and the team. He said, quote, they know what they have with Dennis off the bench. That led me to believe that they're going to probably start Horford again after kind of going smaller without him.
Yeah, I would expect that to be the case as well. We've got Schroeder's minutes down to 24 tonight, Horford at 28. So expecting Horford to start. in terms of that matchup for Boston, we'll talk about more on the DFS show. But Washington has been like a little bit better defensively this year, not quite the train wreck that they were last year. So maybe not as compelling as you used to be able to highlight Washington. In terms of other situations, Brooklyn, they had rested a big man on each of the last two back-to-back games. One game was Blake Griffin, the other game was LaMarcus Aldridge. It's very interesting what that means for the rotation, because I think the back end of the rotation with all those guys healthy gets really sloppy again. We saw Bruce Brown, for example, go from DNP coach's decision and 4 minutes in the two games where both of those guys were available to 27 and 30 minutes to the two games that one of those guys was unavailable. And so the point being, there's a really wide range of outcomes on these different, Brooklyn kind of backup pieces. And you want to be careful with them no matter who is kind of announced as like a starting option. We've speculated that they might start Bruce Brown just because of the matchup with Jimmy Butler, but I just don't know. And so I think you got to be careful with Brooklyn as a whole. Obviously, the whole thing on Brooklyn is whether James Harden's going to start making shots again, or if he's gonna look like he had his powers taken by the Monstars. But I think that's a kind of a low key thing that makes Brooklyn's back end of the rotation much more volatile tonight.
Yeah, to add to that, Nash said he did like how KD handled the assignment on Beal when he had it, besides the Bruce Brown minutes. So, maybe they put someone else on Lowry. Maybe they go big again. Bruce Brown his range of outcomes is so high. I think he starts, but it's so hard to guarantee that their lineups are just out of this world right now.
Yeah. Some new injuries that popped up on the injury report. OKC is doing the back-to-back old man center swapperoo with Muscala out tonight and Favors back in. The same thing the Nets were doing with LaMarcus and Blake Griffin. I don't think it means much, with the exception of Jeremiah Robinson-Earl should get another start here.
I think Favors would start against the big Lakers guys.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I thought based on Daniel's.
I agree that I think he has a shot, but I just think that given the matchup and they're kind of comfortable, Favors in that starting role.
Okay.
That I'm not for sure on that one, but I just think it makes sense.
What do you think? So here's the thing: if AD is out and they're having to play Dwight and DeAndre at center like the whole game, do you think that strengthens the minutes for the OKC guys for Favors and for JRE? Because they have Favors, JRE, Pokusevski. Isaiah Roby. Roby played like 2 minutes last night in a game without Favors, which was shocking to me. Or do you think it just doesn't matter? It's like they're not even adjusting for opponents. They're just doing their own thing, trying guys out.
Yep. That's exactly what Mark Daigneault said. He said he's not playing matchups. If he wants to play a guy on a certain night, he's not going to care. So, the headline is that JRE has deaded Roby. Is pretty much the only takeaway we have from it so far.
Yeah. So good luck. I think fishing around for value there on a big slate is pretty unnecessary. Even if like JRE is announced to starter again, I'd be hesitant to go there, especially like Dwight and DeAndre aren't. I mean, DeAndre's a little bit easier to get fantasy production against, but Dwight's not.
If JRE starts, I think he's in play, honestly.
Yeah.
With the way the Lakers are playing fast and they want to get him going. They ran actions with him and stuff. So
I think he'd be in play on DraftKings, where pricing is a little bit tighter, and not in play on FanDuel is kind of the way that I'm thinking of it. Some other guys, the other big one is Isaac Okoro is doubtful, and Cleveland just doesn't have backcourt depth. They don't have much in the way of wing depth either. This is why they're playing Lauri Markkanen at the 3 so much, because all their depth is in the front court, because they've constructed this team as if it's like a high school basketball team where you just want as much size as possible to beat your opponents who have no skill. So Sexton, Garland could play a ton tonight. I hope they don't, because we're on the unders on some props for our props packages, but it's a very interesting spot for Cleveland. It's one that I'm probably not attacking from a DFS perspective. I will note this combination of things. Okoro is a really low rates player, really low usage. So whoever is filling his minutes, whether it's Sexton, Garland, Rubio, even though they're getting more playing time, they're also playing in lineups that probably have more shared usage just as a whole. And then they're big underdogs in LA. They're a young team that just got a big win in Denver and had a couple days off in LA. That feels like a recipe for a letdown type of spot and situation. So even though Okoro being doubtful opens up the ceiling for like Sexton and Garland, and the Clippers have played really fast, I am not super excited about attacking this situation.
Yeah, the minutes are going to be thin, like you said. So I think it's in play. Point guards generally don't do well against the Clippers. They run a lot of heavy trap stuff. So not into Garland and Noah Coro. Who the F is going to guard Paul George?
Yeah.
He's going to kill them. So yeah, I think that's going to be probably Cover City. Losing a Coro being so thin on the road. LA nightlife could be tough. I want to take one question really quick. We don't usually do,
Yeah.
but this is a great one because I want to talk about it. I hit it on matchups because Fred VanVleet talked about being so dead after the game. Had I think 36 drives in the last game, 43 minutes in a regulation game. Nick Nurse compared to him with a pinball. They want to play him a lot. And Carlisle and Nurse are playing their starters in spots when they need him to. So many minutes with LeVert possibly back, but I think VanVleet's role is so freaking good right now that against the Pacers defense that really funnels stuff to Miles Turner. I think he can go nuts again. But I just want to hit that really quick. That's a DFS question,
right.
but I thought it was a good one. So I want to give you a little taste of what's in matchups.
Yeah, a little taste of the premium content behind the paywall over at establishtheRun.com. Reminder, if you do not have an in-season subscription to establishtheRun.com, I don't know what you're doing out there. We've got the props packages, we've got the DFS packages, Mike Gallagher's matchups column, all of our projections, the live shows, subscriber Discord, which the people in Discord, the environment and community in Discord has been awesome. People are really kind of positive. It's been different than a lot of other Discords and Slacks that I've been a part of where people are just negative all the time. I think the community has self-policed itself and it's been great. I think it's hugely beneficial to all the people in there participating. And then also, if you're enjoying our free content here Monday through Friday, 2:00 Eastern, we will continue to do this injury report show. Please subscribe to the ETR NBA YouTube channel. We're trying to grow this channel, trying to continue to deliver more free content. The more growth of the channel we have, the more we can make money on things other than your subscriptions, based on advertising and marketing and whatnot. So please.
And my background. I can get something in my background if you guys subscribe.
We subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can get Gallagher some background imaging. But we appreciate you guys coming along with us for the ride each and every weekday here at 2:00 Eastern. We will be back tonight behind the paywall on the Establish the Show with myself and Gary Hartman at 5:00 Eastern. And we'll see you guys in front of the paywall tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern with another edition of Establish Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show.